Hi, thanks for checking out this week's musician interview. I have Joel Armstrong. He's played internationally across Europe, bit of New Zealand, Canada, US. Really excited to bring him out today. Thanks for coming out, Joel. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So you're also running under your own name, and then you're half of Moosefly.
Yeah, Moosefly. The other half of Moosefly is a production partner of mine that lives in Frankfurt.
Very cool, man. Yeah. I was introduced to your music from a mutual friend and really enjoy it. So I'm glad that you're making tons more music and there'll be more to come, you know?
Yeah.
So you play do you play many instruments as well as doing production, or how does your production mostly work for your music?
I can play a few instruments, but not that well. I opted to do vocal training in high school and college instead of learning instruments.
Yeah. Okay.
But then my music is mostly just written on computers and through electronic hardware.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like going into each thing and then clicking on the specific area instead of punching in the MIDI with like a keyboard or something like that?
Yeah. Depends on where I'm at, depending on the studio that I'm in. But it's mostly just like electronic composition and programming.
Awesome. Yeah, I've worked a bunch with some of my buddies on like different film projects, and we are always going in and like connecting with the keyboard and doing all the MIDI stuff and doing all that. So it's kind of cool to see like from a different perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, man. And so like, what really drives your art? Like, what's the fire behind your art? What gets you to go to the computer and just spend hours poring over all this music and just like really putting your heart and soul into it and bringing it to life?
I kind of treat music like it's a friend, and I started writing music when I was at a point in time in my life where I was feeling very lonely, and there was this other aspect of it where I wanted to create music that made me feel like the first time I kind of heard electronic music. I wanted to get back to that point, but I wanted to be able to make it myself instead of relying on other people to take me there. So
I see. Very cool, man.
Yeah. There's an aspect of storytelling I really like about music too, because like there's memory attached to like sound, and so like every time I would hear some sounds, I would automatically be transported to something or moments, and so there's these signposts in my life that are these stories, so these just being able to like tell a story is kind of fun.
Very cool, man. Yeah. So like really getting into the depth of the art and then really bringing to life maybe something that happened to you or something you saw, or just bringing it to life and maybe getting somebody to react to that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously being able to inspire people is awesome. That would be something that's new. That would be a newer driving force for me. In that, I got a message from some kid in East Africa, actually, on Facebook, on my fan page, and they basically just mentioned that when they're having like a day where they feel really down, they listen to my music.
Okay.
And that was kind of like really inspiring for me, because to know that people are paying attention, that are listening to the stories I'm trying to tell and actually getting something out of it themselves, that's also very rewarding.
Yeah. I'm sure, man. Yeah, must have been a really special experience. Did you?
I almost cried out at my desk when I said it, because I kind of needed to hear it at the time, and it was really like kind of a really cool moment. Yeah.
Really cool, man. Really cool. Yeah. And so, like, what does your art mean to you? You're able to pour all this into it and get those reactions. Like, when you wake up and you see the finished project, like, what do you get out of it? Like, what does pouring everything in there mean to you? Can you maybe expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I guess it still kind of does go back to that whole idea of like music kind of like being like almost like an entity, like it's like a friend of mine. Yeah. And so I've been getting to a moment where I can listen to some of my songs that I've written in the past, and I can almost step outside of it and become a fan of my own music in a way. Like it's almost like you art has to be you have to let go of art at some point, because art is never finished, right? But then allowing other people's interpretations of that art to become part of a bigger story, and then also and then standing away from it, being able to appreciate it for art on its own. It's kind of an exciting place to be, because then
Yeah.
yeah,
That's super cool, man. Yeah. Just like letting go. So almost like the, time for the end of the production, or like you're like, oh, I gotta play a gig and need a new song, gotta cut that thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever had like a deadline or something like that? Or do you usually create those for yourself to sort of share the art? Or is there a time where you're just like, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
Or maybe you share it to one person, or what is your take on that?
Yeah, I've had to work to deadlines before. Having a deadline oftentimes is nice because it really forces you to trust your own instincts when you're creating, like, because you can second guess all the time. Is this the right melody? Is this the right hook? Is this something people are going to enjoy? And you can fiddle and fiddle and fiddle, and so at some point, like I said, you like letting go is also kind of its own deadline in a way. It's like knowing that, look, no matter what you change right now, it's not going to change a whole lot. Like it could go in another direction, but at some point, it just needs to be let go. So
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Had a few hard deadlines. Had a few hard deadlines, but I do have to kind of set my own every once in a while. Just yeah.
Absolutely. Great, man. Yeah, and like, what do you hope your audience gets from your music? Like, it sounds like you've had a lot of different reactions, and you definitely want them to be inspired. Like, what are some things that you hope really brings them out for your type of music and everything? Because I think maybe a lot of people, they listen to it at home or on their headphones, and then also in different clubs, and it's dance music.
Yeah.
So what do you really hope to get out of maybe a couple different scenarios of your music?
I really like those moments when people gather around a certain type of music, or they gather around music, and there are these brief moments where everybody's on the same page. And being part of that collective, and like being part of that community, and having those moments where you realize that there are ways of connecting people, and bringing people together, and where everybody is one mind and one body and one soul kind of thing. Yeah. And that's something I love about electronic music. Those moments where you remember those moments, especially when things just come together properly. Like when the tension in the music creates like this palpable, like you can cut the tension in the air, like with a knife, kind of on the dance floor. And then when like all the music elements come together, and everybody kind of reacts the same way, and it's powerful stuff, man.
For sure.
It's like this weird communication in the ether, kind of.
For sure. Like growing up, I never really had a great deal of exposure to electronic music. Yeah. And I went to a few different clubs, and I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. Yeah. And I've as an instrumentalist, it's a much different approach to playing music. Like you're producing everything before, and then you have different choices to make during the live performance. And so for me, my favorite thing is live performance, and maybe a similar sort of thing to you, which is like really connecting with the audience and giving them a great emotional experience. Yeah. And I think one really interesting thing that I saw, and like I've come to a couple of your shows, and you're very good at reading the audience. Sure. So like I saw one time where you were playing, and there was just a few people on the dance floor, and then you started really getting into it and playing something very rhythmic, and the beat was inviting, I would say. Okay. And so it brought a lot of people to the dance floor. Yeah. And later in the same evening, I heard another beat where the DJ was sort of, I would say, a little bit more avant-garde, from the type of music I've listened to anyway. Yeah. And so he was like splitting up the beats. And so like from your take, like how and like what is your enjoyment from doing the live performance? And maybe can you give us some insight into how maybe you've started to learn to do that?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Well, obviously, the more you do it, the easier it is to like to read crowds, right? But at the same time, man, that's a hard one. It's something. I would say that it's something you kind of feel. It's not really. There's like not really a whole scientific thing. I mean, obviously, if it's a good beat, and where you play something that gives an element of familiarity to the crowd, then obviously they're gonna probably gather around that more than if you give them something that they're not really like used to or familiar with, right? Yeah. But then once you're in it, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel it, I guess.
That's awesome, man. I like that answer. That's sort of something that I do a lot too. Like I play a lot of functions, and sometimes if somebody's not connecting to a certain style of music, it's like, cut this song in half. Okay, play this different groove, you know?
That's funny.
And I really I appreciate that, you know, because I think it transfers a lot over different types of music. Yeah. And it's cool to see that. You know?
Yeah, it is.
And so, like, what do you get out of sharing your music with your audience? So, like, you give so much, you inspire even one person who called you from, you know, another continent, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And like, what do you get out of the music? And like, what keeps you fired up and like just gives you energy and food to keep making that, you know?
So like, the music itself is energy, man. Like, cool. for real, like the music itself is the energy. Yeah, but sure. I find when I'm writing music, that's kind of, I find like I have like trouble focusing. Mm-hmm. So like writing music is like my zen. The actual act of writing and like that, the loopiness, like it's like it's, you know, has I would say has roots in, you know, in like a lot of religions. People would like with meditations is like chanting and like the repetitive aspect of it is how they get into their zone. And so for me, dance music is what does that. Like that kind of music, the writing aspect.
It's like it's your zen.
Yeah, it's where all the weird, like crazy and it just gets rid of everything, and then I can just dial into one thing, and that's probably when my brain is the most relaxed and happy.
Cool, man. Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, like with what attitude might you recommend students approach music, or up and coming musicians, or like any insights that maybe you've learned coming up through your journey in music?
Oh man. If you don't have a lot of time during the day, especially if you have a day job, doing 2 hours, 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day of music is better than not doing it at all and waiting to like say do 8 hours on a Saturday or something like that. I would just say if you have like the time and space to just do 1 or 2 hours like that and be focused in those times, that's probably the best way to just keep your, you know, the juices flowing to be like, and just continue to just write music. There's this amazing Hourglass quote where he kind of talks about people that succeed in music, or succeed in art, I would say. Your taste is what gets you into it, you know, and your taste is obviously good. And so, but the thing is, your skill level is not at your taste level. Yeah. And so, while your taste level was always a constantly shifting like thing, but at one point you'll get to like where you'll hit a bit of a plateau, and I think a lot of people that really pursue art will give up at that point, because it's probably the most frustrating place to be when you don't see results and you're just constantly not really, you're frustrated because your skill level is just not getting to where your taste is. Right. So creating a volume of work, just work, and just, you know, just pump it out. Yeah. And because like I'll write like maybe, you know, close to like 30 or 40 songs in a year, but I've only released 6, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's just work, and then you find those little pieces that eventually start to match up with your taste. Cool. And then when you get to that point, that's when I think art starts to take it on its own like character, and then that's when
that's when it becomes a friend.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's when it becomes a real friend. Yeah, the one that stays up late.
Yes.
With you. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And is there anything in particular you wanted to say to anybody coming up or playing music in Vancouver that you really would love to share?
Patience and hard work.
Nice, man. Cool.
That's like
awesome.
No one's gonna do it for you, so you gotta put in the time yourself. Get your ass in gear.
And like one more thing that I found was quite awesome. Yeah. I like that, man. Me too. Every day. One thing that I found was really great to see is like I think some musicians, maybe they say like, oh, if I can't do this as a full-time job, then I'm not going to do it. But I really like how a lot of musicians are still doing their day job and then just pouring everything into their music.
Sure.
Because I think, in my opinion anyway, and from what I've seen with a lot of different artists, is that to be able to share your art, it doesn't matter if you get paid for it or not.
Yeah.
What matters is that you are able to share it, and just sharing with more people. Sometimes you are able to get paid, which is awesome.
Yeah, I would say if you don't enjoy like the process, then you're probably in the wrong field.
For sure.
Because it's not.
Yeah. So like one thing that I thought was really cool is how you have like a career during the day.
Yeah.
That's you're able to do some skills that you do in music production during the day.
Sure. Yeah. I work for an advertising agency during the day, and I do a lot of like video editing. I do some sound design, and a little bit motion graphics, animation, little bits here and there, like not. But yeah, it's fun to like to be able to like to know those things, because it also like that stuff also helps with my music, and also like when I'm branding myself and I'm working on, it allows me like the ability to like make my own music videos if I need to, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
Cool,
it's good.
man.
It's good to have.
Yeah.
I lucked out, to be honest. Like it's a good job. So
skills, you know, and then adding to your own talent in music. I like that, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming out.
Oh, man, my pleasure.
I really appreciate it, man. Yeah. Thanks again, Joel. And check out this guy's music. I did some dancing before. We were able to be hosted by one of our friends, Bijan from Mood.Berlin. Just wanted to give him a shout out for sharing his home, living space here, studio. And subscribe for weekly musician interviews for more great guys like Joel, and keep a lookout for his music. Have a great week.
Ciao.